I'm Chloe Morgan and I'm a goalkeeper for Crystal Palace Women. I'm a proud member of the LGBTQ+ community and I've always felt at home in the women's game. Coming out for me always felt like a very comfortable experience in the change rooms and with my team and on the field. I was surrounded by a lot of my teammates who were from the LGBTQ+ community and it always felt like a very supportive environment. I think I was very lucky in that respect. That's not always the experience that you have as an LGBTQ+ player. But I've always wondered why there are stark levels of contrast between the men and women's games in terms of LGBTQ+ inclusivity. Well, with currently no active men's players in the professional game, I wanted to go on a journey to find out why. Hi Lawrence, thanks for meeting with me. Why do you think the attitudes in the men and women's games are completely different in terms of LGBTQ+ issues?
You know, like the world we live in is very, everyone's been quite closed, you know, like in concerning those issues. I think now I think it's much easier for someone like, like yourself to come out and, I don't think there will be a lot of backlash. But I think in the men's game, I think more to do with, the supporters, I think is more the public perception will be difficult. And I think that's probably why hardly any men, especially at the top level, have come out. Because I'm more than certain, there's gay footballers in football. I think more the perception from outside, I think will be the thing that's holding people back. I've got family members that are LGBT, got friends that are LGBT, So if anyone was to come out in my team, I 100% do the utmost I can to, support them, with everything that goes on in social media. I think that's probably the most important thing.
Hiya, it's good to see you again.
How's things been?
Yeah, busy. I just really wanted to get your thoughts, obviously, as an ex-professional men's player, on issues surrounding LGBTQ+ inclusion and men's football.
It's a delicate subject, obviously, as you're fully aware. I think the approach towards the LGBT community, especially in football, it's been like a witch hunt. There seems to be this big question: when will the first current professional footballer come out? And it was like, for what reason does a player need to come out to the public when it's a private matter? There's, from my point of view, there's no stipulation that someone has to declare their heterosexuality, but somehow they have to declare some other way.
And what kind of barriers do you think exist for a player who was potentially thinking about coming out? Do you think it's still quite a scary environment to be able to do that and to be a genuine self?
I do, yeah. I think it would be very scary for them. The world seems to be searching for someone, and it doesn't seem like a nice search at the moment. As I say, it's more like a witch hunt. And for all the supporters of the LGBT community, for all the people that would support an individual who did come out, there would be guaranteed more people who would be against it, be it players, be it fans, be it anyone who would be up in arms about the fact that this player was in the professional game. Unfortunately, that just seems to be the way that the society perceives it at the moment. And as much as we're looking for equality and diversity in every department, I still think this is one hurdle which will take the public, or the footballing public, a lot longer to get used to, dare I say.
Having spoken to people who played the game, I was keen to see if there was differences in cultures between the men's and the women's professional game. Hi, Stefan. Thanks for talking to us. In your professional opinion, what do you think are the biggest differences between the men and the women's game?
I think that the men's game is steeped in centuries of tradition and history, which are born out really of, in many ways, white working class cultural norms. I think with the women's game in and of itself, because of the years in which the women's game was looked down upon, has become a more inclusive space. It's become more an inclusive space because many of those that play the women's game know what it's like to experience discrimination, whether that be sexism, racism, or homophobia. And I think that's why we see more women and more children and more families at games than we do see in the men's game.
But while the men's professional level strives to improve its LGBT+ inclusivity, it's the lower leagues that are paving the way for the sport. A different dugout for you today, Luke. Why do you think it is that we have to go down to the 8th tier of professional football to find an openly gay manager?
I think the higher up you go, sponsorship is a thing, especially in elite football. So as much as I'd like to think in the UK, so for example, I've certainly never had any issues, certainly in the game. If you think that top Premier League teams are owned by people from the Middle East or in China and that, where being gay can still get people killed. So if I'm thinking, if I'm going to come out, actually the owner of this club, are they really going to sign me? We're in their country, that's a criminal offence.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And do you think the men's game needs more LGBTQ plus role models?
Absolutely it does. And we're not just talking about players or managers or coaches here, we're talking about referees, we're talking about supporters being visible with who they are. We're talking because when I was young, for example, there was no one that I could look up to that was gay. There was no one like me in the game. And you're always thinking, well, how can I aspire to be something if that isn't there for me to see, to reach to? And actually, the more people come out, the more they realise it's normal and the more they'll be comfortable in themselves. And I think that you'll be doing the younger generations as well as the older generations so much good by doing it. And it does come from the top. And I really hope that one day a player or a coach at elite level in the men's game is able to feel that they can come out, because the difference they would make to people would be huge.